Hey guys, so we've already seen date, a different way of writing date using different formats. Now it's time to see some date methods. So just like numbers and strings, we also have some date methods. So without wasting any time, let's just quickly go and see what we can do with date methods. So let's do a variable d is equals to a new date, which is the current date. That's what it should give me. And let's try to put a console.log and do a d dot to string so that we know what we are getting out, and let's see what the answer would be. It would be the current date and the timestamp. Now that we have the date, let's start and see what get methods that we have. So there are a set of get methods and set methods which will help us get the dates and set the dates. Let's do a console log, copy this, paste this, and instead of toString, let's do get date. And let's see what happens. You see that? The first thing that you see is the date, which is 5. So you can easily get the date using this particular get date method. So just like we have the get date, we also have something called as a get day. Get day, well, the only difference is instead of giving you the day as Tuesday, Monday, something like that, it'll give you a day as a number, which is 0 meaning a Sunday, and of course 6 meaning Saturday. So let's run this and quickly see what we get, and the answer would be 1. So okay, answer is 1 because it's a Monday. Just like we have a get day, we also have get a full year. So if you need to get the year, it'll give you get full year, and you can check the answer. It's 2016. Prize. Well, that was the year. Similarly, you can get the hours. You can do hours, and you can get 16. That's because it's 4 o'clock right now. You can similarly get the minutes, milliseconds, month. I'll let you play with it for yourself, but let's go and see directly the get time. I think that's an important one. The others are on the same lines. So when you do a get time, it will give you in milliseconds. Remember, we talked about that the dates are also represented as a number, which is the number of milliseconds from 1st of January 1970. Yes, that's what this is. So when you do a get time, you will get it in milliseconds from that particular moment, which is January 1 to 1970. Now those were date methods. Again, I'll let you practice the months, minutes, seconds and milliseconds yourself, and we'll move on to seeing what we can do with set dates. So before doing a set date, we also need to make sure we can do a get date after doing a set date. So let's say we already know that the date is 5. Let's say I want to do a set date of, and of course I have to pass in the parameter, and let me make it 31. Let me also add a line for console.log. Let's say we are doing setup methods. Let's close this and let's run this. So you can see that we got the date as 31 after setting that date. Okay, so that is what was getting printed. So you can see we got the date as 31, even though the date was 5 initially. So you can set the date easily. We already set the date to 31. Now what happens with the get day? So we have a get day, but just a point to be noted here that we do not have a set day, for a simple reason that when you set a date, by default it will pick up the day on which that date falls on. So the computer can do that processing. You don't need to change the day because that will change the day for everyone in the world. And that's why we don't have a set day as such. Then we have set year. So let's try and set the year. Let me remove this because we don't have this. Let's do a set year. Instead of 2016, let's make it as a 2034. Set year 2034. Jeez, what am I doing? Okay, 2034 it is. So on and so forth. Just like Here you can have months, you can have milliseconds, you can have seconds, you can have hours, but not the day. That brings us to a very important one, which is the time. Let's try to do a d dot set time, and again, just the way we return a milliseconds, we can also pass in the milliseconds, and let's see what happens. So instead of returning 647, it returned us 395 because that's the millisecond we passed for the date after that. So the date actually got updated. And if you just do a get to string, the date will be what we had previously, which is instead of getting 1623 or beyond that, it will give you 16 something, which is less than that. To string, did I not run that? See, it gave you 1623 even though the current time is 24 because I set a timestamp or milliseconds for the previous one. You also have an option called as parsing. So what is parsing? In JavaScript, you can parse a date into a millisecond. So for example, variable milliseconds is equals to date dot parse, and then you can pass in the date you want to pass in, which is, let's say you want to pass in December 31 and comma 2016. So that's your date. Now let's do a console.log and do msec and see, it should give us a timestamp. You can see, so that's the timestamp for 31st December. Now you can use the same timestamp to set the date. So let's do d.setTime and let's set msec, and then let's do a console log for the same thing. We can do this, I think. Let's clear the console, run it, and it should give us 31st December. So you can play with parsing as well. What if you want to compare the dates? So let me show you an example. Compare dates. Okay, so we have variable today, comma someday, comma text. That's it. So let's assign today is equals to new date, which means it will assign the current date. Someday is equals to new date again. Now let's update the someday to set the full year to, let's say, 2020. So now someday is in the future, which will be, let's actually give it a date as well. So let's make it January the 1st, actually January the 10th. Okay, so that's our someday now. So what we can do is we can check if someday is greater than today, then console.log, we don't need this text, we can directly put in the text output. So let's do a console.log and say today is before January the 10th 2020. Let's close the if bracket and let's add else, which will tell if it is not before 2020, then it is after. So we can say today is after 2020 and that date, of course. Let's clear, let's run. Okay, before we do that, let me just close the quotes so that we don't mess up with the quotes. Let's run this and let's see. So today is before January 10th, of course. Let's do a new date of MMDDYY 12/12/2021 and let's try to see what happens. Today is after January 10th, 2020. So that's how you can compare dates with just using the greater than sign. And of course there are many other methods that we have in date object, and you can definitely do a UTC date, UTC day, UTC full year, and so on and so forth. I will be sharing the complete reference in the notes so you can go over it and make sure you practice it. It's very handy to use dates when you know them well.